Belonging is beautiful, but it's not always easy. Real belonging asks more of us than polite inclusion. It asks for honesty, patience, repair, and the willingness to stay present when things feel awkward, unfinished, or uncomfortable.
And that's the tension. Because many of us want belonging, but we want it without vulnerability. We want community without the inconvenience. We want to be known, but not interrupted. We want to be accepted, but not challenged. And we want connection, but not the risk that comes with it. And yet belonging that is real requires mutual care. And mutual care always involves some risk.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Well, welcome back. You belong here. We say that honestly.
Yeah. Hey, and I belong here.
You belong here, and I belong here.
Yeah.
I belong to myself. Maybe that needs to be a new t-shirt.
If we just, how many t-shirts would we have if we made all of our...
A lot. I was just thinking of this recently.
Okay.
Because we did Err on the Side of Kindness. That was one of the early ones.
Okay.
Oh, that's
I am
all
not
remember.
the thinking partner for this.
Okay. And I belong to myself.
And all the ones in between.
Yes.
So Monday, we started talking about one of our favorite topics. And something we have unintentionally / intentionally been building for 6 months now, which is the case for you belonging at the table. And this resonates so much with both of us as individuals, both of us as business partners, and the Morning Share as a whole. And we spent time talking about what belonging is, a little bit into what belonging is not, and really want to spend time today more in the space of what belonging is not, what we've been taught, what we've caught, what we've misunderstood about belonging, because we think that's really important to kind of undoing what has been wired in our brain so that we can move forward to Friday, which will be practical ways to help build bridges of belonging.
And how we can continually cultivate spaces where other people can belong.
Yep.
That would be such a high compliment for somebody to say, when I'm around you, when I'm in your space, I feel like I belong. Oh my word, that just evoked all kinds of emotions in me. I'm like, that must be that it's relational, spirit, it's all the things I am.
Right.
Huh. And I'm still doing the hard work of belonging to myself. So I confessed on Monday that I feel like most of my life I have operated in spaces because I didn't really belong to myself. I operated in spaces that I tried to fit in and can still revert back to that. I think that's still some of my default in some particular situations. So let's talk that through. How in the world do we get to this place of feeling like, well, maybe we should define what is fitting in. We talked about on Monday, I had just at least the imagery of belonging being a jar of marbles, where marbles don't necessarily fit together. They're all rounded. There's still space in between, but a marble can just be in a jar with other marbles of different sizes or colors and still be a part of the jar. Where I think of fitting in more like a puzzle, where you have to change shapes, you have to adapt, you have to make sure that your shape fits in with the puzzle itself in order to be accepted in that puzzle piece.
And not just the shape, but the pattern, the picture, everything.
The
has
orientation.
to look like one of us in order to be a part of us.
Say that again.
that I don't know if I can. That every part of you has to look like us to be a part of us.
Mm.
And belonging is the opposite.
Yeah.
We are stating boldly that belonging is an acceptance of someone for who they are in every way, color, size, shape. That's true belonging, not this molding to fit something that's already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So when you think back about what we've been taught or caught, I don't know where the line is there.
Conditioned.
Yes, to believe about belonging. Let's debunk some of those myths that we've carried.
Yeah. I think belonging is not the same thing as being liked.
Mm.
And if you feel at any level your middle school self trembling right now, like these are all things. I for some reason, and maybe I'm the only one, but I feel like I had a freedom about my own self when I was like elementary school days.
Mm-hmm.
But come middle school, I feel like every one of these statements as we read them, it's like I have a flashback. Like I'm transported to middle school.
Yeah.
And this is my whole existence. And I don't think it didn't really change until I was well in my 40s and later.
Wow.
That's the most of my adult life. Oh, okay. That's a confession or a admission.
But most of us can relate to that simple, just pointing to of those middle school years of, those are things that most of us experience during that time of figuring out if I belong and why I do or don't.
Yeah. So what did I have to do in order to be liked?
Right.
That's a question.
Mm.
That would indicate you're trying to fit in.
I can speak to an experience about that,
Mm.
which goes to also belonging is not achieving something or it's not achieved by performance.
Yeah.
But I remember when I broke into junior high, I was fresh out of homeschooling and went through those first few years acclimating back to that kind of culture with, pressures of junior high school and going into high school. I struggled. I didn't look like everybody else. I certainly didn't act and behave like everybody else, a little church girl. But the moment I started playing basketball and people started seeing me and valuing me based on my use for the team, everything changed. And people were, the peers that were making fun of me started chanting my name during games and rooting for me.
Wow.
And so, of course, that reinforced this whole idea of performance does provide belonging, but it was not belonging. It was a pseudo sense of belonging. I felt like, ooh, now I do belong, but really it was just fitting into the narrative of here's how I can provide value. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. And for those of you who heard Deanna just now say junior high was formerly or is the same thing as middle school. I grew up calling it junior high too, but most people these days call it middle school.
You're right.
Isn't that funny?
Is weird because I've taught middle school, but in my mind, I'm thinking like 5th, 6th grade, and 7th and 8th grade in my mind is junior high. But no, you're right.
Yeah.
It's like,
isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just had to laugh because I was like, I haven't heard
dates us.
junior high in a while.
Something you also mentioned on Monday about what belonging is not. It's not guaranteed by proximity just because we are in, even I'll say community, but in proximity with other people.
Right.
That does not create belonging.
Yeah. Whether sometimes it's a family, sadly, or work environment, school environment.
Even
friends, church, even. And I think this is one of those things where we started teasing out, like, what does belonging or fitting in look like in each one of these environments? And realizing that even in some environments, like a church environment sometimes, which should be the place, or a family unit, where you should feel the most safe, you should feel the most like you belong. When we started teasing out what belonging actually was, most of those still were fitting in.
Yeah.
I fit in, but I don't necessarily belong.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, which goes to the point about like IFS, internal family systems, and you kind of danced around it, but this whole idea of attachment, that's what's so harmful about when we don't have a healthy attachment to our caregivers at birth and in those young childhood years. That sense of safety and belonging is foundational for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But those that don't have that experience, that becomes their frame for how they experience the world and relationships. And the reason why maybe other people struggle more with belonging than others, why some struggle more than others.
Yeah, that's a good point. And going back to that, we emphasized on Monday that there are two questions that every human is always asking. Am I safe? And do I belong? And so exactly to your point, when your family of origin or your earliest caregivers didn't make you feel safe or that you belong just simply by existing, then yes, the answers to those questions go longer, and the propensity to just fit in and adapt to every situation becomes stronger.
Yeah. Yes. And more of a biological response sometimes than just a behavior or.
Yeah. So also belonging is not sameness.
Oh.
And this goes back to the puzzle.
Yes, exactly. And environments that I know that I grew up in, which lends itself towards us talking about church culture. But I think so much of church culture now, and maybe it's outside of church culture. We think about like sports culture. But, I'm not finishing my thought, but I remember even as a young person, this desire to relate to someone who was the same or identify with someone who was the same. Not only identify with someone who was the same, but to ostracize the one who was different. And this is kind of a funny example, but like we would have jokes about those people who drove Fords, like
because you guys were Chevrolet people.
Chevy. I don't even know. I don't remember who I was,
Okay.
but there was always a distinction of Chevy or Ford. And I'm talking about kids. I'm not talking about my parents.
Right.
Yeah, Chevy or Ford, and we like found on road dead was what we would say about people about
Ford.
Ford.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Also, there was like Coke versus Pepsi.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to think about anything else, of course, and then you can do this endlessly with sports teams and all of that. But this idea of sameness, there's a familiarity that I think provides a pseudo sense of belonging.
Yes.
That the more we're the same, the more I belong. And we are saying that is not true at all.
True. You may fit in.
Right.
I would argue that you do fit in, but that is not belonging.
Right.
Because going back to the definition from Monday of belonging is it's a place where your whole authentic self can be accepted, wanted, and serve as a contribution to the whole.
Right.
So in that moment, if you can, yes, I may like the same team that you do. I may wear the same uniform that you do to school or to work, but that doesn't mean that my entire personality, my entire self is accepted in that environment.
And probably if you're looking for that, that's an indicator that you don't belong. Well, even if we look at creation, like the example of how the world was created, we're obviously not meant to live in a world of sameness.
No.
And even among individual species, there is difference and complexity.
Yes.
So then why do we so often pattern our communities, and I'm speaking of church specifically, around look like this, behave like this, and then you can belong, rather than you belong here and we accept whatever is, whoever you are, to this beautiful jar of marbles.
Well, and I think it's all about that. I think it is, I wrote down that if I have to change or hide any part of myself to be accepted as a criteria for belonging, that's not belonging.
Right.
And then somebody would hear us and say, well, haven't you been advocating for change the entirety of your podcast? My response would be, we are advocating for change, but that is an internally driven change, not as a criteria to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Personal growth is yes, I still advocate for change, but I advocate for you still to be accepted in whatever stage of change or unchange that you are.
Yes.
That's belonging. Fitting in is you have to change your behavior, your opinions, your whatever, fill in the blank,
appearance,
in order to be a part. And that's the difference for me.
That's so good.
Yeah. So that's what I started teasing out. And I think that was a great question for me, is where do I feel in myself that I'm having to change in order to feel like I belong here? And if that's it, that's not an environment where I'm going to belong. I may fit in, but I'm not going to belong.
Yeah.
And a minute ago when I was kidding about the t-shirt saying I belong to myself, I just had this moment, and we never want to make this podcast like a us versus them or men versus women or anything like that. But sitting in a woman's body here next to another woman, knowing that women listen to our podcast, I think that phrase, I belong to myself, is a phrase that most men have not had to grapple with. Because in general, women are taught from a very young age that it is our job to look around, to adapt to situations, to make everyone else's life easier. Whether it's your family of origin, environments where you participate, work environments oftentimes, we're always required to make sure we prioritize other people's needs, their wants, their opinions, their whatever, in order to belong, to get recognition, to be accepted. You think about even women's bodies themselves. We can talk about abortion and not that in this thing. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying, like, even our own bodies are up for public discussion.
Well, where I thought you were going with it was that we're taught that our bodies belong to the men.
Yes, either in a relationship or in a broader context of a legal court case. I wanted to launch because I think that's why it feels emotional. Because the stretch for most women to finally feel like they belong to themselves is going to cause ripple effects in other situations, because we're going to quit adapting. We're going to quit waiting for us to fit in, for you to accept us. You either accept us or you don't. And so that's terrifying.
Yeah.
To systems who have based upon our adaptability and our willingness to fit in, to be a marble. And are you okay when I show up as a marble and you wanted a puzzle piece? That's the question of where this leads.
Yeah.
But I think if men were willing to sit long enough, they will realize too how much they have fit in. Maybe it is a sports team.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe it's taken on an attitude of, like, I don't have to feel anything. I don't have to cry. Men don't cry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's
fitting
the
in.
masculinity.
Or the current definition of masculinity.
That's my point, yeah.
Yes.
Like what they have had to, how they have had to morph to fit into a narrative or a structure of masculinity so that they can belong in their body.
Yes.
Ooh, I'd be so interested to hear, from the men who are listening and the women who are listening, what they think about this.
Sorry.
What are you sorry for?
That whole thing, I felt it earlier when I was scanning this, and I was like, we cannot not go there, because then this is a thing. I think we have to shed light on some of this to men who have not understood that it's a whole different ball game. That when I say when we belong to ourselves, how validating that is. To give a woman the confidence to be able to belong to herself.
Yeah.
Because we're still wrestling with our own inner voice
Mm-hmm.
of do I belong within my own skin,
Right.
much less like I need noise canceling headphones to figure that shit out.
Well,
Much less like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Offering up your opinion or your
Expectations and criteria.
Yes.
I was thinking even about the whole thing about like even perimenopause or menopause, like experiencing, we were just laughing the other day about getting ready and being in the bathroom and just the heat that is generated from the inside of my body.
Yes.
And then I'm blowing hot air at my face, on my head.
To dry your hair.
And then like putting makeup on that covers all the pores so then I can't breathe. Like, I've gone through all of this. I'm wearing constrictive underclothing, that I just want a man to have to do all of that.
Yeah.
And then not touch the air conditioner,
Yes.
like to experience what
Yes.
it is to be inside this body.
Yes.
Would I think just, be very
and
helpful.
throw in there bleeding.
Right.
At least a week out of every month.
You're right.
On
and
top
all
of all
that comes with that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Whew. Well, apparently all that needed to come out for us to belong to ourselves today.
Wow.
So I feel like frequently, though, we were talking about things that are not belonging, but also we get a little bit confused. And this is something we have found in our
Even
own
in talking about it.
conversations.
Yeah.
And then down at the table the other night was trying to tease out the difference, because I think fitting in is the shadow side of belonging.
For sure.
Meaning that it's the pseudo version of belonging that answers the question just enough that takes the edge off of our longing to belong, so that we're just like, oh, okay, well, at least I fit in here.
It's the counterfeit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what's being offered.
That's a great way of saying it. Yeah. So what do you think, what are ways that we confuse things with belonging?
I think if we start with longing and work our way back.
Okay.
Because the things that we long for as humans, I'll just say myself, the thing that I deeply long for is to be held. We long to be in community, to have connection with people. We long to be seen and known. So if we think about the counterfeit of all of those, then what is being offered as counterfeit to being held? I think what's being offered is a welcome. So that, we can unpack that and get kind of caught up in semantics, but it is one thing to just be invited into a space, but it's another thing to be held. And when I say held, I mean like hold space for.
Right.
Like we've talked about on many episodes.
Yeah.
Like seen
Yeah.
and understood.
But you mentioned literally, and I think it's interesting that I think everybody, again, a basic human need is to be touched.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because we have such an over-sexualized culture,
emphasis, yes.
like just a simple act of hugging, and that's something I feel like our family and our community does spectacularly. We all laugh because in our home and then in our community, there are just good hugs given between friends. That's guys, that's girls, that's children, it's like everybody is involved in this, but sometimes you just need a hug.
I think another way is the counterfeit to being in community is that idea of proximity. So I can be busy socially, but not actually be active in a communal, reciprocal relationship.
Yeah. Where, again, your whole self is welcome in that space.
Right.
Makes me think of so many churches now have community groups. That doesn't necessarily always mean, because you're gathering in somebody's home, that you actually belong to each other.
Yeah. I think a big one for me was that idea of the longing to be known. And I think where I have gotten wires crossed here starts a long time ago with being agreeable. of just like going along with whatever somebody wants would then give me some sort of a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
but it wasn't true belonging because I didn't belong to myself.
Right.
And I wouldn't say this is what I want.
Yeah.
You know, I just learned to go along with, and that does not set up healthy parameters in relationships at all. And
Right.
I'm not giving my authentic self. And there, I think, well, I don't know. It just, there is no belonging.
Right.
Because there's no authenticity.
Right. Well, and I think that goes back to belonging is not the absence of conflict. It's not simply just being easy.
Right.
That's not belonging. That's, to me, that again is if I have to adapt myself, if I have to change myself and who, or I have to change what I say, how I talk, anything like that. If I have to change in order to belong or be a part of something, then I'm not really belonging. I'm just morphing to fit in.
Yeah. So let's go back real quick to what real belonging is. And you said it over and over, but it is a place where people are willing to be known. So what that implies is the community has to be willing to accept, like you have to get to know people, accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
So it's an intention on all sides.
Yes.
That is willing to step into that space of being known, to know others, and to remain in relationship as long as it takes to grow and learn about each other.
Well, it implies vulnerability.
Right.
And like nobody walks into, and you know, it's funny when we had weeks and weeks and weeks ago, when we had the episodes on vulnerability and we asked the dinner table, like what they thought about that word, that one of the teenage boys said naked.
Yep.
And very few people are going to walk into any given situation, obviously, with no clothes on. And so to me, building a place where I can become more and more my whole self and be in that space and be accepted in that, as well as a space that is prepared for that, means a little bit like we're continually being willing. We show up and the first time like fully clothed, and as we go on, we're willing to shed different layers of clothes. I just had this image of stripper.
Yeah, I was like, I think maybe let's shift to armor. I was tracking and then kind of anticipating where this was going. I'm like, But also, you know, going back to how we were created to begin with, like that is the type of
and we were
vulnerability.
unashamed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not talking literally. I'm talking metaphorically, like we always do around here. We rarely ever talk literally, except for like these are steps we want to do. But yeah, in the metaphor, you would continually be willing to remove more and more of your metaphorical clothing. I'm going to say that just in case somebody decides to pick up a clip of just
that. Oh, the clip is there.
When I say that. But yeah, I mean, I think that like it is a process that we achieve. But again, I have to at least know my different parts. I have to be conscious of my propensity to adapt and mold and shape because I'm uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so I don't want to in that moment be different. I don't really want to be either. Some people don't want attention. So they will do whatever it takes to kind of like just fade in the background. But that is at some point that's fitting into what they think they have to do in order to be accepted in the space. Some people feel like they have to go above and beyond and be the know-it-all.
Yeah, or funny.
Yeah, or whatever that is. However I feel like I'm adapting in order to fit in, then that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So obviously, these are weighty topics.
Yeah.
Even though, because I don't know about you, maybe it hasn't, but it has evoked such deep emotions in me. And as it's one more thing, as I'm looking internally, I'm starting to realize, and something that I think we may have said along the way, but I want to reiterate today. Every time we talk about these things, I think there is a tendency when we start doing inner work Usually you're going to have to push through a defensiveness. That's just the way I am. I don't have time to deal with that. There's going to be some kind of resistance to it. So acknowledge that. Secondly, usually the next default to that is once you're willing to take through and say, no, we're going to keep doing this, it's going to be shame. It's going to be shame every time. Oh my God, you mean I haven't done this? And yes, I've been fitting in, or no, I'm not vulnerable, or oh, I don't even know who I am. And shame, shame, shame. That's not what we're advocating for either. And that's not a productive voice. And so past that, you will probably get to an honest reflection of yourself. And it can just be what it is. And so I would hope, if you don't, reach out to us. We'll be your authentic community. I would hope that you have at least one friend in your life that you can just have these types of honest conversations with, because it's a lonely road to do this work completely solo. It's possible, absolutely possible, but it's so much better in community. So if you don't have people that you can do this kind of work with, either find that, ask for people, are they willing to do this kind of stuff with you, or reach out to us. But I think these are weighty topics. And so to pause and to kind of reflect at this point seems like a really good place to ask some questions and just give a few minutes to think through.
Yeah.
So what would be some kind of reflection questions that we could sit with?
I think one is to ask yourself, where have you had to hide to belong? Hiding all those parts we talked about on Monday. And then another one would be, where has community felt conditional? Where I have to look a certain way, I have to say certain things, act a certain way to be accepted. And then lastly, what are you afraid you might lose if you let yourself be more fully seen?
So as we mentioned before, the incredible reflection questions, this is deep, lifelong work. I also want to say that because I think so often in our consumeristic culture is, I'll read this book, I'll listen to this podcast, I'll make these 3 changes, and I am my whole perfect self. This is repeated day in and day out practice. That's why we continually advocate for practices. And so we want to advocate for the fact that this is a practice. It requires patience with yourself, with other people. But the real tension comes in sometimes in the what is. And I think sometimes as powerful as getting to what comes next is being able to accurately identify with what is.
Absolutely.
And so we tried to identify of some of the, like, right now, what is part of our culture that makes it much easier to fit in than to belong.
Yep.
And what some of those were, there's no doubt that in some spaces you are valued more for what you do than who you actually are.
Ooh,
and my little performance,
both of our little,
I feel that.
Oh, and that's a never ending ask or demand. Like, it's never enough.
Yeah.
Never, ever, never enough.
We sing that around here all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think that we reward usefulness over presence, which is just saying the first one in a different way.
Right.
This continually goes back to that tending versus taking. You see how all this continually links up, that when we decide to use people, whether it's use their skills, their attention, their notoriety, when we tend to use people instead of just valuing, would I still be happy if they just were here?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I need them to do something for me?
Yeah, which goes to the thing about like we also build, I'm going to say systems, but organizations around participation instead of belonging.
Mm.
Like even if you think about the way we educate, it is about kind of a way of participation instead of cultivating a belonging to yourself, like the way that you learn and the way that you express and the things that you're interested in. Maybe even family systems are built this way.
Yeah.
In the way that we participate as a family instead of encouraging each one's sense of individuality and the jar of marbles.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the idea of masculinity and femininity too. Like we have these boxes that we've created. This is the way you participate in this box. Put it anything like church, education, family. And that's pretty much our approach.
Yeah. I want to pause here because you've heard us say even this month about reciprocity and how we want to participate and cooperate with each other. The difference in this is what we're saying is if in order to belong somewhere, you have to participate, then that's not belonging.
Yeah.
Belonging comes and we want to participate. It's internally motivated.
Yes.
That I participate out of my whole self, though. I don't participate just in the ways that your system or this system has dictated that I'm capable of participating. That would be like saying, unless a guy shows up and he can, do these 3 things, then he cannot be a part of this. Or a woman shows up and she has to have children. She has to not work outside the home. I mean, we come up with all these ways. Then you can participate. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that you belong, period. And then you participate at the fullness of who you are. That's belonging and that's community.
Belonging first, then participate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have seen, which is so beautiful about our community. We all belong here, and then everybody's like, okay, well, that's a strong suit of mine. I'll contribute that way. And then nobody feels threatened because I'm fully aware that's not my strong suit. And then sometimes we have multiple people that share some type of skill or whatever, and we all work together for that. But that's where I think competing comes in, because if you've been set up that your usefulness or your participation in this way is your way of belonging, then when somebody else comes in and has that same way of fitting in or their participation, then there's competition.
Yeah, in comparison.
Where when I start from a place of belonging and I just want to use my giftings and my whole self to participate and to contribute to the whole, then if somebody else has that, I welcome that. And I see that as just another way that the whole thrives.
Yes. You know what it makes me think of? My first moments when I moved here and introduced to our community, I felt like it was instant love, and I was so confused. And it just became so crystal clear in my mind. It almost made me uncomfortable. Like, why do these people love me so much already?
They don't even know me.
They don't know me. Meaning, so in my mind, it's like they have no basis for why they love me because I haven't had to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, just in this moment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is why. I haven't really understood it until now, because I hadn't contributed anything to the whole yet. And so I was questioning, is this real? How can they already love me without my seeing what I bring to the table?
Which also leads to, isn't it interesting that so often we are warned that just to accept somebody is dangerous because we may find out we don't agree with them, or they share a lifestyle or opinions or political views or religious views that we don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
So just blind acceptance of someone
Is
is seen as dangerous, which triggers that you're not safe.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and at least put this out there, that oftentimes I think we tend individually and collectively to project onto those people, whoever those people are, as dangerous. We label them as dangerous. We label them their opinions or their lifestyles or whatever, or these concepts. We label them because we're terrified of those own pieces of ourselves. So it is our worst fears personified. It's our worst fears about ourselves personified.
Mm.
And then we can shun them the way that we're shunning that part of ourselves.
Yeah, we're projecting.
And we don't fully accept all parts of our own self. So therefore, we're certainly not going to accept outwardly all the parts of society.
So what I hear you saying is something you've said a lot, but to the extent that I'm able to belong to myself is the extent that I will be able to offer belonging to someone else.
Yes.
Nailed it.
We could talk for days on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, speaking of the tension, it's Wednesday after all.
Yes.
We got to talk about the cost of this misunderstanding of belonging and fitting in. And so we think that when we stay in this cycle or this space of seeking belonging through fitting in, that there are some things we can identify. And so often when we're seeking to fit in, we're seeking validation. And another thing you can be looking for is like this shape shifting. And I resonate so much with this. And I'm just like, as a mid-40s person, I'm realizing that so much of my teenager life and young adult life was spent trying to fit in, and what the lengths that I had to go to, specifically in shape shifting, like a chameleon or being what I thought other people wanted, how much energy was wasted on that. We talk about performing too, hiding and comparing, like you were talking about just a moment ago. These are all things that if you can spend some time in reflection and identify that you have a pattern of this, that it may give you some insight into that you don't belong to yourself.
No. Well, I think the results of some of those that you've just mentioned are, you talked about several weeks ago, this principle of otherness and othering. You do that to parts of yourself where they're now labeled as unacceptable or the other, but it's not you. So you begin to divide up yourself and decide which parts of yourself are acceptable and which are not.
That's right. And you learn to hide those other parts.
Right.
Yeah. And devalue.
Meanwhile, they're still part of us.
They're in there somewhere.
And they will manifest themselves in ways, unhealthy ways, typically, if not acknowledged.
Yeah. So you will experience this cycle of rejection, anxiety, loneliness, because you are not making peace with what is inside. Yeah. Some more indicators that you may be struggling with belonging, a chronic comparison or a need for validation. This is something we've been talking about quite a bit lately, but this outsourcing of needing validation from someone.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. If you have to outsource anything,
yeah,
that's a little bit of a red flag.
Yes. If you stay in a state of fear of rejection.
Anxiety.
I think even like feeling unseen for extended periods of time is what we're talking about. A feeling of unwelcome and even disconnection. Yeah. These are all indicators that there's some work to be done internally and externally
For sure. Well, I think one of the reasons why we're spending so much time today talking this thing through, because it matters as far as we want to be the people, and then we want to build spaces where everybody has a seat at the table for your whole self, and where you can contribute instead of being guarded or feeling like you have to patrol yourself, you have to fragment yourself in order to only show up as one fraction of who you actually are.
Yeah. It's worth it for the flourishing as an individual and as a whole, to be whole.
Absolutely. Which is always the goal. And I think Friday, we're going to come back and we're going to talk through the rewards of belonging to ourselves, and then being people who build places of belonging for other people. And I think this, for some reason, I keep feeling like this is the ground level change that's needed for our world to change. I still feel like this is the message of the truest voice of the divine, is that you belong. Everybody belongs.
So may we be given courage for the hard work of community. May we learn to stay when it's easier to leave, to listen when it's easier to assume, and to repair when it's easier to retreat. If something in today's episode stirred a question, a story, or even a quiet yes in you, we'd love to hear it.
You can join the conversation on Substack. Send us a note at info@themorningshare.com or leave a comment wherever you listen to podcasts. We're listening, and we're grateful to be learning alongside of you.